The following presentation was recorded live at CALLERLAB's 20th Annual Convention. This is tape number 18, Leadership Solutions.
This session is improving the dance experience 5. F-I-V-E, 5. Okay? Leadership Solutions. For the first 45 minutes, I'm going to speak to you. I'm going to ramble a little with regarding caller club relationships and my viewpoint. When I negotiate with a club to call for them, really, I've never had a contract. I know it's proper probably to have a contract. I've never had one. I just have an agreement that for X amount of dollars, like most of you, $350 an evening, X amount of dollars, I will teach their class, call for their club, and never ask them for any pay increase. When I get dissatisfied, I'll quit. So consequently, I've never had to ask for a pay increase, and consequently, I've never gotten one. I have some clubs. I have 3 clubs that I call for, and I teach their class. I teach 3 classes a year. Enjoy teaching. I was trained to be a teacher. One of our problems in retention of square dancers nowadays is our inability to teach. We must realize that, and we must train ourselves as callers and teachers to teach. We must train. Get all the training you can, because 90% of us, you and myself alike, in square dance teaching, teach the way we were taught. That's all we know. We teach the way we were taught. We've done nothing to improve our teaching skills and our teaching ability. So I was trained to be a teacher. So consequently, after I learned to square dance, I started working on my own teaching skills, and now I enjoy teaching square dancing more than any other part of the activity. I play with people, and I enjoy people, and I love people. And if you don't love people, and you have no business in this activity. You got to love people. You have no business teaching school if you don't love children. So it's the same way with square dancing. If you don't love the people you're working with, don't do it. You've got to love them. You know that, because some of them you have to really love them if you keep them in class. Concentrate on that. And in dealing with clubs, I do not interfere or get involved with their business unless they ask me. If they say, "Ernie, what is your opinion?" I give them Ernie's opinion, and I let them know that this is my opinion. This is not law. This is my opinion only. And only if they ask. Now, we are definitely in a leadership role as their club caller, and we have to guide them, but we have to guide them from back out here where they don't know they're being guided. But if they ask you something, give them your opinion. I do not attend my club's meetings unless they invite me. If they invite me, I go. If they ask me questions, I answer them as best I can. Always when I'm conducting my classes, I have certain things I do. We start playing the first night of class, and I'm going to pass on to you, and I must apologize. I was going to bring this handout for you, and I have probably a different set of commandments, a different 10 commandments than most of you have ever heard. I know Jim had not heard these before, and don't know about Wayne, but he doesn't read. I'm going to pass these on to you and verbally, because the last 3 weeks I've been flat on my back trying to get over back pain. I'll tell you for sure it was worse than my first baby. And the doctor gave me permission last Wednesday to make this trip back here. So here I am. This is the 10 Commandments for square dancers. And I always, the third or fourth night in my classes, go over these, and it's a nice way to tell people kind of the rules of square dancing and have a good time with these new dancers. I haven't introduced you yet, boy. Here they are. Number 1 is thou shalt honor thy caller and hearken to his voice, for thy success depends greatly upon his words. Don't you forget that. Thou shalt exchange greetings and be friendly to all in thy group, lest thee be labeled a snob and unworthy of the title, square dancer. Number 3, thou shalt not ridicule those dancers possessing 2 left hands, but endeavor to help them distinguish one from the other. Number 4, thou shalt strive to dance in different squares, thereby giving all the benefit of thy fine personality and great experience. Number 5, thou shalt not anticipate nor dance ahead of thy caller, for he is of fiendish nature and possessed of evil powers to foul thee up and make thee appear an idiot in the eyes of thy fellow dancers. Number 6, when thee has goofed, thou shalt not moan and belittle the caller, thy partner, nor the slippery floor for thine own stupid mistakes. Number 7, thou shalt bathe diligently before the dance, thereby creating a pleasant aroma for thy partner and leaving the more earthly smells to the factory and the barnyard. Just about to make a point, too. Number 8, thou shalt remain silent while thy caller gives advice and instructions, lest he go berserk and mumble to himself and offer to break records over thy unworthy head. Number 9, thou shalt not partake of strong drink before nor during the dance, lest thy mind becomes befuddled and thee ends up with thy foot in thine own large mouth. Number 10, thou shalt strive to observe these commandments, and thy reward shall be great. Many friends shall thee have, and thy name shall be listed among the finest people, the square dancers. So, I go over this with my club, and you know and I know that every once in a while someone will come to you and say, did you know that so-and-so back there has had some drinks before he came here tonight, and he also had it last Thursday night before he came here? And I said, no, I didn't know that. So I will sometimes reread 2 or 3 of these without having to go to this individual and say, you're drunk, get out of here. So these are little things that we can use and have fun with the people while we're doing this, and they will take it serious. They will understand what we're doing. And our club association with clubs, in regard to people who sometimes get into conflict, and I'm sure we've had that. Some of us, the 2 people get cross with each other during the course of an evening. And some things that you can do when you discover signs of potential conflict, take action immediately by asking the 2 involved parties for what? Time out. Time out. Let's talk this over. And usually you can solve things. Everybody understands time out. Stop your bickering for a moment. Let's stop and talk this over. And we can usually solve most of them right at that point. And the next step to ask everybody to calm down, rethink the situation one more time, hoping that you can get a consensus. And if we do this, we can sometimes stop a lot of conflicts within our clubs and within our classes and things like that. And so, remember, the number one most important thing to me is say, look, guys, time out. Let's talk this over. And, of course, the last thing is get out of here. If this is the best you can do, out with you. And then get some of your big club members to throw them out. So, this is your relationship and my relationship with my clubs, and this is the way I treat my clubs, and they like me or they wouldn't keep me, and I like them or I wouldn't stay with them. And we'll have a question and answer session at the end of this, but I would like to introduce on my left Mr. Jim Wheeler, and on my right Wayne McDonald. Now we've talked this over and planned this discussion for quite some time, and determined which wanted to go first. Call it. What is this? Tails, you go first, Wayne.
Okay. Going back, touching another spot that is a very touchy situation between a club and a caller, I think, is advice to your club. You are in a leadership role with your club in that you're always telling them what to do, and they're always in tune to listening to you and doing exactly, wake up, Grace, doing exactly what you have told them to do in your calling experience with your club. So they're in tune to doing this. They're used to this. When it comes to business matters of a club, they have a tendency to take everything you say as fact, as truth, as the law. And this can be very detrimental to probably your club if you're not careful, because we as callers and as leaders are human too, the same as club members are. And we are dealing with basically volunteers, people that maybe have never been in this position before. In some instances, you have fantastic leaders in your club. When you have those, they don't normally come and ask you your opinion. They go do it. But when you're dealing with volunteers, people that are new to square dancing, which seems to be the situation today due to the fact that older dancers just refuse to take office, a lot of new dancers, I'm talking, would you all be quiet? They just really don't know what to do. They don't know what direction to take. And these problems are going to come up with the clubs. So I practice with my clubs in never giving or never making a statement to a club member or a club officer without giving a benefit and also the pitfalls. In other words, I also explain the pros and cons of what I say. If it's something that I want to go through that I think would be good for the club, I will also give the pros and cons, because for every time there is something good, there is a chance for something else to happen that can spoil it. So you have to be aware of these. You have to make these people aware of these things so they can head them off. A lot of times if these things are head off before time, you won't have to fool with it when it comes up. In leadership solutions, dealing with clubs, When a caller is dealing with the square dance club, he must keep several things in mind. I have listed 10 things that a leadership should keep in mind. Stick to the current subject. Don't let outside subjects interfere during the process. This takes up valuable time and creates confusion among the participants. Know your subject. Come prepared. Study the agenda before coming to the meeting. Know what you're going to say and give the benefits why. Keep it short and to the point. Use the 1 hour method in meetings. Over an hour tends to get out of hand. Dancers tend to get tired sitting there. Consider all the benefits versus the objections. Weigh each carefully. Never make a profound statement without carefully thinking it through. Write down the benefits and objections and study them carefully. Number 5, keep the whole, and this is very important, keep the whole square dance picture in mind. What is better for the whole area? And I say, speaking of area, in this I'm talking about in your club's area. What is better for the club? Will this create a problem elsewhere? Don't move too quickly on this. There may be some other clubs in the area that you may need to consult with before you make a major move in your club. Your program may conflict with theirs, and in doing so could create ill will in the community. Compromise. Sometimes this is better than nothing at all. Set your plan. Never, ever do anything without a plan. Seriously, never, ever do anything without a plan. Stick to your plan. Work it. Don't argue. Discuss it in a cool, calm manner and follow through. And this is probably the most important thing right here. Don't leave any loose strings hanging. See your plan all the way through to the end. You can sit down and you can plan. You can appoint committees. You can do this and you can do that. But if nobody follows through with them, nothing's done. And then you wonder later on what happened. And nobody knows what happened. With a little careful planning, you as a leader of a club, and you normally have a sense of what's going on in your clubs. You know what's coming up. You know what you're going to be asked about. Carefully think it through before you open your mouth, because a lot of people, what the caller says is law. And you could be wrong. Think it through carefully. I have a policy. It's a personal policy that I use. If I don't know the answer to a question, or I first hear a question and I'm not aware of the answer or a solution, I practice being honest with the person I'm talking to and say, I don't know. But I'll find out for you. Give me some time. That saves a lot of heartaches. If somebody comes up with a question and you just shoot something off the top of your head, there's 100 things that could affect. And you have to be careful about this, you as leaders. Back to you, Ern.
Jim?
Back to you, Wayne. Left out a very? Okay, we'll get a couple of extra very things in there. Coming from different parts of the now he wants it.
And number 4, vary.
Coming from different parts of the country and really not getting together to talk too much about what we're going to talk about, it turns out that we all end up doing the same thing, only from different viewpoints. I think the key to good leadership is what Wayne covered, And the three very important steps are preparation, preparation, and preparation. And let's plan ahead of time. Fortunately, neither of my fellow panelists have defined leadership, and I'm not going to try to either. What I would rather do is give you the characteristics of a leader without putting value judgment, whether it be good or bad. At the same time, try to separate out management skills and leadership principles. And that's pretty much what the handout has done for you. To try to define leadership, it resists a simplistic description. It's a rather complex animal. The manager is one who really demonstrates skills, and the leader is one who exhibits principles. We need managers as well as leaders. And most of us find ourselves in a situation where we're sometimes managers and sometimes leaders. And it might be important to know the differences and to stop and think ahead of time, am I managing or am I leading? And as you look through the characteristics of manager and leader on your handout, I think you get a better idea of what I'm trying to say. The manager administers. Things are already in place. The manager makes sure it gets done. The leader innovates. And by innovating, the leader is willing to take a risk, to live with the successes as well as the failures. The manager is a copy. Management skills can be taught, and a manager can be trained, whereas the leader is an original, and that must be developed. How do you teach someone to be original? It takes a long time to do that. We need managers to maintain. They give order to chaos, oftentimes created by the leader. The leader develops. The leader not only develops principles, but also those tangible things that we can see. The leader develops new callers, new dancers, new club officers, new programs. The manager focuses on the systems and the structure, those things that are already in place. The things aspect. The leader focuses on people, provides an atmosphere in which people can have a good time, enjoy themselves. The manager relies on control. I'm the boss, therefore you'll do it this way. Whereas the leader inspires trust, being right most of the time, and when wrong, willing to accept the consequences. The manager has a short-range view. The manager works from objectives, tasks, to-do lists. Takes care of the day-to-day operations, very important aspect, whether it be our club or our own personal business. The leader, on the other hand, has long-range perspectives. Looks for goals, things we'd like to do. Looks at 1-year plans, 3-year plans, 5-year plans. The manager asks, how am I going to do this? When am I going to do it? Whereas the leader asks, what am I going to do and why am I going to do? The manager usually has an eye on the bottom line. Makes productive use of the resources that are available. Time, money, people. The leader, on the other hand, has an eye on the horizon, is visionary, has some ideals to guide people to. The manager is willing to accept the status quo. Things are the way they are, that's okay. The leader, on the other hand, challenges the status quo, not just for the sake of change, but rather balances the future with what's good today. The manager is restricted by rules. The leader understands those rules, their purpose, and how to use them. And last characteristic, probably the best guiding principle for a leader. The manager does things right. but the leader does the right thing. How to improve the dance experience, the theme of our convention. The word improve implies change. Now imagine yourself going back to your club, to your program, on the road, whatever it may be. So I'm going to change all kinds of things here. We're going to do all kinds of new stuff. It's only human nature to resist change, and you will meet resistance if you take a whole bunch of stuff and try to put it into your program next week. The leader will leave here with ideas for the future, as measured in terms of months and years, and possibly even decades, depending upon how old we are. Is it true, Ernie, that when you went for your physical last week, the doctor told you not to buy any LP records? When I was a young caller starting out 35 years ago, I went to the National and called my first tip at the National. And the guy that was doing the machine to help us young folks was the guy sitting next to me. Hi, Dad. We leave here stimulated, full of new ideas. I'm going to get hit here in a minute. We want to implement now, and you will meet that resistance. Evaluating change provides for an opportunity for everyone to buy in, allowing that change to be evolutionary. Get the other leaders, the followers who are potential leaders, to buy in with you and help those changes. Imagine trying to change your dance program as a leader. If you say, okay, next week we're going to add round dances, and the following week we're going to add line dances, and next month we're going to raise the program level of the club. Good luck, folks. It won't happen. As we pointed out, the manager deals with things. The leader deals with people. People can create difficult situations sometimes. How do you deal with them in a positive way? Well, sometimes the positive thing to do is accept the fact that there are just difficult people in this world, and there are difficult things in this world, and you're not going to change them. Unless you have a lot of time. When you run into a difficult situation, you have to ask yourself some questions. First of all, is it important to deal with this situation or to deal with this person? If the answer is no, let it run off your back. If the answer is yes, then you have another question to ask yourself. What are the possible preferred outcomes in dealing with this difficult person or difficult situation? Is it going to make it worse, or is it going to get better? Am I willing to commit to changing the situation or the person? In order to change a person, you got to change behavior before you change attitude. And that involves behavior modification. And you have all tried some form of behavior modification on yourself. Some of us more successful than others, some of us not so successful. Behavior modification is nothing more than keeping a New Year's resolution. Quit smoking. Stay on a diet. Apply that to someone else, and you try to change their behavior. You know how easy it is to change their behavior? Good luck. So you've got to devote the time and the energy. We usually think of leaders as being in the front, like these folks up here. A leader must lead from the middle, not from the front. In the middle, there are 4 possible roads to take off on. The leader can become enmeshed in the internal details of the club or the personal business of calling square dances. The leader can be engrossed with involvement in outside organizations, both as a caller and a dancer, involved in legacy, CALLERLAB, so engrossed that the leader loses touch with the internal organization, that being the club or the personal business. The third road could lead the leader to being trapped in history and tradition, symbolized by the expression, well, we've always done it that way. Why do we need to do something different? The fourth road is the visionary road, where the leader is so enwrapped in a dream world of visions, sugar plums, fairies dancing in your head. Where does the leader need to be? Right in the middle, like balancing on a beach ball at the hub of the intersection in a strong breeze. That's where the leader needs to be, in the middle.
You finished already? Do any of you have any questions or any comments that you would like to make? If so, do so, and then I will repeat that because this is on tape. We don't have a microphone down there. Did you bring a microphone? Oh. Does anybody have any questions? Come on. Once upon a time, regarding caller club relationships, how many of you feel that you are employees? How many of you call for clubs? How many of you feel that you're an employee of that club? Wishy-washy, aren't you?
Depends upon what night it is.
Well, you have your club and their club.
Sometimes it's my club, sometimes it's their club.
We have caller-run clubs, and I used to be of the opinion that if square dancing was to survive, it would have to be caller-run. I'm not sure that I've changed that opinion, but I'm not nearly so strong in that belief as I was a few years back. We must know as callers where the activity is headed, and we must keep it in that line, and we must keep our clubs in line in that direction. As far as club activities are concerned, aren't 90% of the programs that are used, well, maybe more than that, 99% of the programs that you use or other callers who are not CallerLab members use with their clubs stimulated from what we do here in CallerLab? Would you say 99% of all clubs are taught or dance to the CallerLab programs? And we don't have 99% of the callers in our organization, do we? But they are using our programs. Maybe not to the T, to the letter, but they are using them. I teach my classes just as CallerLab recommends, the teaching order. I don't have to, but I do. I spent 5 years as chairman of a teaching committee with this organization and developed a handbook it's mine, for teaching, and my classes suffered. 3 classes a year, and I taught each of them differently each time. Used a different teaching order, try it this way with this class, another way with this class, and over a period of 5 years, and found that being a teacher, I can teach it however CallerLab recommends to teach it. Or I can get my own teaching order and still teach each of these movements that are on each program. And you can too. You're a good enough teacher that you can teach the recommended CallerLab teaching order, or you can have one of your own. So this is why in some of our programs we vary, and we try to in our area we try to stay as much in the same together as possible, so we can have our dances along 10th week or whatever in class, and we can all be at the same place. Question? Thank you. There's controversy in your area as to which kind of club is better, a caller-run club or a dancer-run club. And
I've gone through the same controversy in my own area, and we've come to this conclusion. There's room for both. No, it's not a cop-out. It's satisfying the paying customers. There are those dancers that don't want the hassle of a club. There are those dancers that love the hassle of a club. I have caller-run programs at home. I go 7 nights a week when I'm at home. I've got caller-run programs. I have club-run programs. Neither one interferes with the other. We get along just fine. The way the caller-run program is ran is you come, you pay your money, you like it. You don't like it, you go down the road to the next one. I do all the work. I clean the floor. I sit the chairs. I make the coffee. I do everything. I get all the money. What little there is. The club-run program, they manage the club. That's it. And I honestly and truly believe to help you in your situation, I honestly believe as a caller, our clubs in our area all dance on Friday and Saturday night. No one dances during the week. So I have scattered my programs out through the week so as not to conflict with the club. So we have a combination. Those that want to, will. Those that won't. That's what it boils down to as far as the dancer is concerned. That's the way I handle it.
Pretty much the same thing. It's going to depend upon the people that you have in your area. What are they accustomed to? Are you starting out new programs in areas that are virgin to square dancing? Or are you trying to start a plus club in a basically mainstream area? Or are you taking a plus club that somebody else runs and trying to compete by going to the advanced level because there's nobody coming into the bottom and you want to get people moved someplace else? And I've worked in, I think, all kinds of situations in various combinations. Caller-run clubs, dancer-run clubs, dancer-owned clubs, and caller spouse-owned clubs. My wife owned a club, and she hired me. I got paid when Ernie got paid. Nothing. It fit the situation at the time. It gave the people what they needed. And to be honest with you, on the plus club, the dancer run club, I don't want it to become caller owned because there are good leaders in that club. And they keep that thing moving. And I have to keep running to catch up with them.
That answer your question?
We'll pay you later.
Problem. The question was what I do about burnout among club members. All clubs strive, in my area, strive. They don't strive. They beg people to take offices. This is what you're talking about, right? They have to beg people to take offices. And it's hard to get a club president, someone to serve as club president. The number one mortality rate in square dance among square dancers is club presidents. They are president a year and they're out of square dancing. And this is number one. They go through that and they're gone. What we do about it, I don't know. Maybe we refer them to a caller-run group. I have to sometimes talk to people and say, would you not like to be president of the club next year? When the club has asked me, would you talk to so-and-so and see if he would be president or she would be president or whatever? And I will do that for them. I'll relate to them, look, we need leadership, and I will help you in any way I can. If all you have to do is ask me. But it is a problem throughout. And if you have no place to refer those people to, if you say, well, like I have a club in two basically farming communities, one town about 35,000 people, and there's only one club there, so I have no place to refer them to. And they have problems getting officers. But they do get them. Eventually they get officers. And whether they could function without those or not, they own their own hall and all this kind of stuff, and it is a job. It is a job for these people to become club president because they have to manage the hall along with a group of people that are assigned to manage the hall. They rent the hall out for other than square dancing because they only square dance in Monday nights and the first and third Saturday, and otherwise it's rented out. But they've always come up with officers, and burnout as far as square dancers are concerned, not as far as club officials, club officers are concerned. I think that is, we've got to play with the people and have a good time with them and let them know that when they come to our square dance, they come to my square dance on Monday night, we're going to have a good time. If they feel good or if they feel bad physically, we're going to have fun for a while, and maybe tonight I will call, over an hour and a half period of time that they dance, I will call 4 tips. Maybe next night 5. Depends on how I feel that they feel out there on the floor when they're dancing. If they want to rest a little bit, these are our ages of our people are moving up, of our square dance. Average age is moving up in the United States. So we kind of have to fluctuate with those. Do you guys have any comment on burnout?
Part of being a leader is nurturing your followers. Club officers sometimes are managers and sometimes they're leaders. During the year, it's the little things that you do to make that person feel that they are doing a good job, that they want to continue. You find a time, and it doesn't take much, just a couple seconds. Say, gee, I really like the way you laid on this special party tonight. Start in the fall, let's say 10 months prior to elections, asking the president or the board, who are you developing to take your place for next year? Don't wait until that. The Constitution says the third week in May we'll present a slate of officers, so that means on the second week in May you start looking for officers. Okay, that's the visionary part of being a leader, looking down the road and keeping those managers / followers / leaders feeling good and feeling important, complimenting them on anything that you can compliment them on sometimes. And I know compliments can be difficult. It might be nothing more than, gee, you got a new outfit. I like to see that. That's good. Folks are going to look up to you. How did you advertise this last dance? Look, we got 4 more sets than we normally dance. Those little things that really do mean a lot.
I'd like to go back a little bit further in burnout. Our activity is a recreation, period, to the dancer. If it's not a recreation, then somewhere down the line somebody has steered them in the wrong direction. Our activity is strictly a recreation. We're dealing with volunteers. We have to keep the recreation in our activity. When it all becomes a business, that's time for us all to hang it up. And if you keep this attitude in it, if you will notice that most of the controversies that come up in a club are basically nitpicking stuff, right? Very few major issues are big controversies. It's a big issue. We do it, we don't do it. We voted in, we voted out. Bingo. The nitpicking stuff is what causes all the problems. The nitpicking stuff is what causes burnout.
Please turn your tape over at this time for the continuation of the program.
Enjoy it. Let's come to dance. For God's sakes, let's or during a dance. Just don't do it. Separate night from the dance, please. But in our activity being a recreation means that we are there for fun and relaxation. I know it takes a certain amount of business to run it. One thing that I like to do with my officers is tell them, well, what are we going to do about so-and-so, so-and-so? How important is it? I mean, does that mean that we're going to have a dance or we're not going to have a dance? Does that mean we're going to have visitors or not going to have? How important is it? If it's not that important, don't worry about it. Let's have fun. Period. We'll go with what we got. Things seem to work out because you're creating an attitude within your club and with your club members that we're going to go have fun tonight. We're not going to go argue about situations or issues. We're going to go have fun tonight and dance. And once this is instilled in your dancers, it can possibly, the height that a class gets to. You know how ready they're ready just to bust out with joy. That's what our clubs ought to be like. And one thing that is, in my opinion, that is holding our clubs down from having that feel when you walk into a dance is the business aspect of it. But we have a business aspect in our clubs, and we have to live with it. So let's keep it low key, and let's keep it separate. Right.
Oh boy, I could give you a whole day on that. Is it important? Are you committed to expending time and energy? Okay, we'll go back to that. Simple little tools to stick in your bucket of tools to pull out. Substitute and for but, as in yes, but. Make it yes, and. Listen what happens when someone says to you, yes, but. You feel a wall? Even if they are opposing points of view, when you say yes and, you're still in the same circle. Think of the situations that have been difficult and the people that have been difficult. The yeah but. Or the kids. Yeah but dad. Try yes and. It's difficult. You try say yes and when you want to say yes but. The but comes out first, then you choke, and then out comes the and. Okay, so that's one little technique. The other technique is to raise yourself one level in the communication process. We talk, we listen, we interpret the content of the speech, but then move up a little bit and saying, how are these people talking to one another? How am I talking to them? Am I listening more or am I talking more? Are they angry? Why are they angry? And start thinking about that. That takes time to develop. It's developing part of your listening skills. And unfortunately, most of our communication, when it comes to interpersonal communication, is imitation of other people and using what has been successful in the past. And I would suggest in dealing with difficult people, that you spend some time thinking about your communication skills. Are you too aggressive or are you too timid? And very simplistically, condensing an 8-hour workshop, learn to communicate in the style that that person is accustomed to, and then bring them back to your style. If they're aggressive, get their attention by being aggressive, and then immediately bring them back to your style. If they're timid or shy, you don't walk up to them and start shouting at them. Hi, how are you? And they go, I'm fine. No, you sit down and be a little more compassionate. And then bring them back to your style where you feel comfortable. It's very easily said, very hard to do.
In addressing what you were talking about in dealing with different people, in our square dance activity, we, as you all know, have all walks of life. We have professional people, all kinds. Everybody has a different personality. And I think as a leader, the most important thing that you could do to gain respectability from all these people is to be impartial. Number one. Never show partiality toward one or the other in a conversation with them. You have to be careful. There again, what you say is gospel. And people are, they take this as gospel. The caller said this, so that makes it gospel. I have only in my square dance career had to approach one person about drinking. The way I handled that with him was very simply is I went to the man and I said, I think we've got a little problem here. I've got a couple of complaints about alcohol before a dance. And, we have a rule here at this club that if you have alcohol in your breath, that you're not supposed to be on the dance floor or present. And we want you to dance with us. We love you. We want you to come back and dance with us anytime. But at this present moment, we're going to have to ask you to leave. But we want you to come back next week, and you do it in a very nice way. That's how I handle that problem. I've never had any other experience with any other problem. I have, getting into this other situation, I have had problems with personalities that no one could seem to control. I have that problem right now. It's an ongoing problem in our area. Not in my club. It's with a association person. We have basically let the problem handle itself with this person. In that it's gone and gone and gone and gone, and people eventually just quit paying any attention to her. We have a dance, a state dance. It's our time to have the state dance in our area. She's made the bid for it without consulting anyone in the area. And looks like we're going to get it because it hadn't been in our area for a long time. Looks like we're going to get it. And the talk is among the people, the dancers and the leaders in the area is, let her do it. All of it. I don't think they will let it come to that. I think at the last minute they may come to the rescue. But I think this is basically telling her in a nice way, that, enough's enough. If you want to run square dancing in this area, then fine. You run it, but you do it all. And you won't be able to depend on us. I don't think there's been a lot of vocal contact with the lady on the subject. Maybe it's a good thing to go direct to this person or any person that's given a problem, that continuously gives a problem, and just say, hey, let's sit down here and let's discuss this, and just basically, what is the problem? Why is everything, so disagreeable? Maybe they need to understand what the ideals of the programs are about. Maybe they don't understand that. And it goes back to instilling that this is a recreation, not a business. There's a college professor that comes to mind. I don't care what came up. Everything got very technical. He was a very technical type person in what he did. And sometimes you have to handle these people in a technical way. If you're not capable of doing that, which I'm basically not capable of handling somebody in a technical manner, maybe there's someone else that can and that he would or she may listen to. We deal with professional people, factory workers, public workers, store clerks, people that are in the service of others. And the one thing that I've jotted down here that you as a caller of leader must do is also show leadership by example when dealing with these people. Because I go back to I'm kind of old-fashioned, I go back to the old thing that actions speak louder than words. And I think your actions will basically handle the situation if your actions are correct. Yes?
I'm not going to mention any names. All right, I'll give my name. My name is Jack Cook. I'm from Michigan. And the young lady asked about a problem with the dancers with perhaps uncleanly body odor. In times gone by, we've had a few of these happen, and the solution has always been good. Someone will do up a little box with a bar of Lifebuoy soap and some deodorant, write a little note in it, tell them that we love them, they're nice dancers, we love to have them, but this is sent to you because we think that perhaps you don't understand. And we've had people come back and been the most desirable people to be in the club. They've been great, they've been cleanliness, very, very clean, and it's been a good experience. We've had it happen a few times, and no names are named, and so it's been good, and the people have taken it nicely and taken it kindly because we told them we love them. And I think you try it and it'll work.
Yes. Thank you, Jack.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing.
I guess I have a question in response to some of the questions out there.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Do you
4,
allow your
testing.
new dancers right after graduation to become officers of the club? Oftentimes by default. And then what happens to those folks? Those are the ones that leave. So the question is, isn't it better to find somebody who's been dancing for a period of time than to get the new dancer so involved in all the politics of the club activity and then get turned off, ticked off, rather than burned out?
An answer to that question. We got lots of things going here now. When I turn my classes over to the club, I recommend to the club, I say, now they're yours to do whatever you wish to do with. I have trained them. They're dancing at club level. I would recommend that you not give them an office or a job until they have danced at least 1 year, until we've got them hooked. And then let them go to work. Because a lot of clubs give the dancer the feeling, the learner the feeling, that we want you in our club so we can give you a job. And that's true. I know that's true. Yes.
It's nice if we can have both characteristics, and even more important, to know when to use managerial skills versus leadership capabilities. There are times when we must do things right, and there are times when we must do the right thing. If you have a team where one is predominantly a management type person and the other is predominantly a leader, then those two people must work very closely together. And I can think very specifically of the caller's spouse-owned club. When my wife had our advanced club, she was the manager and I was the leader, and there were very clear lines as to who was going to do what, who was going to do the why and the how versus the when and the what. And it was constant communication between the two facets. It made both of our jobs a lot easier, actually, rather than trying to be manager 1 minute, leader the next.
How many of your clubs and how many of you are aware that Legacy has a club leadership journal? Let me say this to you folks. If your club is not subscribing to this, you're missing the boat and your club is missing the boat. This is the most effective piece of leadership material that's available to the square dance world today. That's a big statement. But right there it is. You need this in your club. Your officers need this. It's worth, and I did it the first year. I bought the subscription myself and had it automatically sent to my club. It was worth every dime of it because now they're subscribing to it, and I don't think they'd do anything without it. Our president, this is his Bible. He really works on this thing. Here's how you can get it. On the back is a subscription form. Club Leadership Journal, Bernie Colthurst, editor, Post Office Box 766, Plover, Plover, Wisconsin. I will lay this down here. If anyone wants to get that address off of it, you certainly may. But this thing is chocked full. Yes, Lieutenant. Okay.
Larry Hoskinson from Omaha, Nebraska. And the form that you're showing there is very good. And the USDA also has leadership information that they pass out nowadays that are very good. The one point that I wanted to make in leadership roles in clubs that we found that worked with some clubs very well, and to getting new people involved and not burning them out, is we started about the second week or third week of class. When the class starts, about the second week, we have a form that we lay out with the schedule of the class on it, and we have each class couple sign up for a week or 2 weeks or whatever they want to do, and that's their turn during the class to bring refreshments, whether it be cookies or whatever they want, chips, whatever. But it gives them the idea that they're becoming part of a group. And then once they graduate and go into the class or into the club has what we call duty squares. And depending on how large the club is, you can make as many duty squares as you like. Normally have at least 5, 6, or 7 couples in each duty square. And then you break that out to where each duty square has their schedule. And those new people become part of that group. And they're taken under people's wings who have been in the club for many years, and they find out that they all get along very good. And when it comes their turn to be officers of the club, they've had that training. And they realize that it's not a job, it's not a duty or something to be worried about, it's something to enjoy and be part of. And it seems to work very well.
Let me say one quick thing. Thank you. I was not aware. I apologize to any of the Escort Dancers of America about their leadership journal. They do have some good material too, and I failed to mention that.
Question? Different strokes for different folks. Sometimes I have to talk to them. Sometimes it's better for some of the club people to talk to them. It's not bad. It's not bad to go to a friend of the person that's involved. My people usually come to me with that problem and say, what can we do about it? And I discuss it with the club people.
Developing leaders does not mean relinquishing responsibility. Okay? So there are times when we have to take action. Right. That's correct. Sometimes you delegate, but sometimes if it's an immediate situation, if it's on the crisis end of the spectrum versus opportunity, then you handle the situation. And then discuss it afterwards with your developing leaders. Guy walks in drunk and he's slobbering all over the place. You're going to let him dance and nobody else is taking any action? Something's got to be done. But maybe they see it. Right. If you can do that. But if the situation says it needs immediate action, you take immediate action, then talk to the officers of, assuming it's a dancer-owned club. Okay.
Yes. One more. We'll take this question, then we have to close. USDA has a free leadership journal type thing. In closing, how many of you have this document here? Is the How to Spell Leadership. It's a thing that is available through the CALLERLAB home office, and I'm going to quickly go over this with you if you do. How many have not seen this? How many have not seen this? This How to Spell Leadership. Yes, it was compiled by Herb, and I'm going to hurriedly go over this because it's darn near lunchtime. It starts out, once upon it. No, that's a different. Learn to get excited. This is the word L, the letter L. Learn to get excited about what you're doing. Enthusiasm is contagious. Love the people you work with and the square dance movement you represent. E, examine your own motives for wanting a position of leadership. Do you want to serve others, or are you merely serving your own ambitions and boosting your ego? A, avoid arrogance, impatience, irritability, and resentment. Adapt to the group and adhere to the code of ethics. How you play the game, that is, attitude is important. D, develop a sensitivity to the needs of others. Leadership is a guiding force. Diplomacy, not demands. Delegation, not dictatorship. These are essentials of good leadership. Establish goals and evaluate progress toward those goals periodically. If you do not know where you're going, how can you effectively organize available resources to get there? Responsibilities, this is the R, responsibilities of many kinds accompany any position of leadership. These include responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your peers, to those you lead, and to the square dance movement. S, set the example. Once you become a leader, you're in the spotlight. People watch to see how you act, how you dance, how you dress, how you speak. Often actions do speak more loudly than words. Have the courage of your convictions. You know what is right. Do it. Do not be persuaded by selfish pressure groups or vocal dissidents. Lead rather than being led. Is what you are doing in the best interest of square dancing? That is a good yardstick. Integrity, initiative, imagination, and indifference to personal gain should characterize your actions. Pride in your profession, position, and organization are those you represent, and those you represent should be reflected in your leadership role in your own personal activities. Herb accumulated these from different readings and things, and I think it's very good, and I thank you for coming. And one more thing we've got to work on is the word recreation. We're going to do that recreation thing, you know, and I'm going to work with Wayne on that so you'll understand when he says recreation that he really means recreation.